Hello everyone, welcome back to the Billy Joel Iceberg Explained. I know it's been well over 3 years since we've last been here, but hey, it's better than not being here at all. As you can probably tell from the title of the video, this is a direct continuation of the Billy Joel Iceberg Explained Part 1, so please watch that one if you haven't already. As per usual, if I get anything wrong, if you have any criticism or corrections or anything like that for the next video, please let me know in the comments. Also, thank you all so much for over 3,000 subscribers. I'm insanely grateful to all of you, whether you're new or you've stuck around since the beginning. I know I haven't uploaded in over 2 years, and I'm sorry for my absence. But I think I'm really back this time. Again, thank you so much, especially for your patience. With all of that out the way, let's just get right back into it. Okay, so the first 5 entries of this video are an addendum to the iceberg due to the inevitable passage of time, covered chronologically. They more than likely would have been placed higher had they happened or existed 3 years ago. Anyway, the 100% real and true reason why this video is coming out when it is not because of lack of motivation or burnout or laziness or any other personal reason that I don't really want to discuss here. No, it's actually because I wanted to talk about Turn the Lights Back On. Announced and teased on January 22nd and released on February 1st of 2024, Turn the Lights Back On marks the first time Joel has released a new song since the 2007 single All My Life, which I briefly talked about in the first part. The song also marks one of the few times that Joel released a song he co-wrote, this one being written by him along with songwriter and producer Freddie Wexler, Arthur Bacon, and Wayne Hector. Wexler and Joel were interviewed about the production of the song by CBS for the 66th Annual Grammy Awards, during the ceremony of which Joel performed the song with Icelandic singer-songwriter Laufey. For the song itself, it's a tender piano ballad reminiscent of something off of Stormfront with a very modern-sounding production, which, at face value, details the musings of someone who has made many mistakes in a seemingly failed romance, and as time has passed, the narrator wonders if there's still time to ask for forgiveness and maybe try again. While the subject matter isn't the most original in my opinion, the poetry used to convey it is honestly quite moving and is something I personally resonate with. Looking at it from a different perspective though, the song seems to also be about Joel's hiatus from releasing new music and him pondering whether or not it's too late to continue writing and recording pop songs, with Turn the Lights Back On itself perhaps being used to test the water for new music. Either way, it really cements the balladeer part of Joel's image through its subtle poetry, intimacy, and the music itself, and for what it is, it's pretty good. Speaking of image, the topic of image is something we'll come back to, so keep that in mind for later. Joseph Roderick Jr. lawsuit. Joseph Roderick Jr., a session drummer, filed a lawsuit in July of 2024 against Joel for $15 million along with future royalties for the song You May Be Right. According to Complete Music Update, which seems to be the first outlet to break this story on September 3rd, 2024, Roderick sued on the bases of breaching a verbal contract, copyright infringement, and quote-unquote detrimental reliance on a promise. The story goes that Roderick was invited by a fellow musician named Brian Shackelford to play on 3 demos, 2 of which would be recorded by Joel, and one of them being the subject of the lawsuit, You May Be Right. Roderick claimed he, quote, created the drum beats, feels, and energy, unquote, of the song, and performed the drum beats on at the very least the demo version of it during these sessions. 2 weeks after they happened, Shackelford supposedly told Roderick that, quote, they would get him on the other end, unquote. And obviously due to the fact that this lawsuit was filed, this promise went unfulfilled. Why it took so long for him to file was due to him claiming to have suffered from depression and a nervous breakdown in the early 80s, which he was admitted to Good Samaritan Hospital in Dayton, Ohio for. Adding on to this, Roderick also cites the Warner Chappell v. Neely case, whose judgment found that if one were to become recently aware of a copyright infringement from long ago, they can claim damages from the original point of infringement. While he admitted he doesn't know whether or not his playing is actually on the final cut or if Liberty DeVito re-recorded his claimed drum parts, he still said, quote, Hearing the song You May Be Right on the radio and elsewhere is not just a slap in the face, but it's like getting slapped with a semi-truck day in and day out." Unquote. The suit didn't get anywhere though, since on December 20th, 2024, Roderick's complaints were ultimately denied on the basis of failure to state a claim on which relief may be granted, with the case being thrown out altogether. He filed once again in June of 2025, which also didn't get anywhere. Normal pressure hydrocephalus diagnosis. On May 23, 2025, it was announced on Billy Joel's social media pages that he would be canceling his tours through 2026 after being diagnosed with normal pressure hydrocephalus, a brain disorder which involves an excess buildup of cerebrospinal fluid in the brain and can potentially lead to worse disorders such as dementia. Unlike dementia, though, it is reversible and easily treatable, especially when caught early, which seems to be the case with Joel. From what has been reported, Joel seems to be doing fine and is in good humor about the whole thing. According to radio personality Howard Stern, who Joel is friends with and had gone to dinner with for his birthday around the time of his diagnosis, Stern said he was doing well, and Joel said to him, quote, "Yeah, you can tell people. I'm not dying," unquote. In a message shared by directors Susan Lacey and Jessica Levin at the premiere of their film Billy Joel and So It Goes at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York, which I will cover very soon, he said, quote, "Getting old sucks, but it's still preferable to being cremated," unquote. As of writing, he is still undergoing therapy and treatment, and as a fan, I wish him nothing but the best care and a speedy recovery. Billy Joel and So It Goes documentary. Premiering on June 4th, 2025 at the Beacon Theater in New York as the opening of the 2025 Tribeca Film Festival, Billy Joel and So It Goes is a documentary directed by Susan Lacey and Jessica Levin which paints, quote, "an electrifying, deeply personal portrait of one of New York's greatest legends," unquote, and features never-before-seen performances, home movies, interviews, and other behind-the-scenes footage. The film is split in two parts. The first 2.5 hours, which premiered at the festival and later released on HBO Max on July 18th, covers Joel's career up to the Nylon Curtain, and the latter 2.5 hours cover everything from that point up to the end of his MSG residency, which released on July 25th, again on HBO Max, running about 5 hours total. Unfortunately, in an ironic twist of fate, Joel himself was unable to attend the premiere due to his previously mentioned brain disorder. Not long after his diagnosis announcement, Tribeca co-founders Jane Rosenthal and Robert De Niro said in a statement, quote, "Our hearts are with Billy Joel and his family following today's announcement. As a New York icon and global music legend, he has profoundly shaped the cultural fabric of the city and touched audiences around the world. We send our love and full support and wish him strength and a healthy recovery. We're deeply honored that this year's opening night celebrates his remarkable legacy and enduring influence on New York's cultural landscape. This is the perfect moment to recognize a creative force whose work reflects the very soul of our city and the heart of Tribeca," unquote. As for the documentary itself, it's a deep dive into Billy Joel the idea versus Billy Joel the man, and unlike other documentaries which aim to dissect the music and the processes and circumstances that made it, And So It Goes delves into Joel's personal life and how it's deeply intertwined with his music and music in general, answering the question, what makes Joel's music still relevant today? It's also incredibly informative about Joel's struggles as an artist, a public figure, and as a person, and puts many things into perspective, especially from those who were close to Joel. A bit of a spoiler here, but I found the first part especially eye-opening because of the way it explored Elizabeth Weber and Joel's working and romantic relationship, how they were simultaneously simpatico with and hindered each other, and how instrumental she was in both keeping the band together and breaking Joel into the mainstream, both as his manager and his muse. While it does suffer from a little bit of chronological disjointedness and some questionable editing choices that are generally a result of the direction in which the documentary genre has gone in the past few years, And So It Goes is ultimately a very intimate and thorough retrospective that I think is essential Billy Joel viewing material and probably the best of the Joel documentaries. Totally worth the hassle of setting up an HBO student subscription. I can't recommend it enough. 20th Century Cycles closure. In August of 2025, it was reported by multiple sources that Joel's motorcycle shop in Oyster Bay, 20th Century Cycles, would be closing permanently due to his diagnosis. The shop was open during weekends in August to sell off their part inventory, and Joel's personal motorcycle collection was moved out and prepared for auction. The store permanently closed to the public on September 21st when the lease for the space expired. Symphonic reiteration. Similar to a reprise, this term, possibly coined by Joel, is used to describe a musical moment that recalls an earlier musical moment for the sake of cohesiveness and narrative. The best examples I can think of where Joel does this himself are the closing of Scenes of an Italian Restaurant, which calls back to the opening of the song, and at the end of Where's the Orchestra, the closer of the Nylon Curtain, the clarinet in the outro plays the same notes as Allentown, which is the album's opener and reinforces the overarching theme of disillusionment.
Well, we're living here in Allentown.
This can also be applied to artists other than Joel. For example, Donald Fagen of Steely Dan with his songs IGY, which opens 1982's The Nightfly, and Morph the Cat Reprise, which closes the album of the same name released in 2006. The latter ends with the same horn chord progression present in the former, signifying the end of the Nightfly trilogy, which encapsulates Fagen's 3 albums released within that time frame. Boxing career. When Joel was in school, he was often bullied, so in order to defend himself, he took up boxing. After he dropped out of high school and before he made music his career, Joel made a bit of money doing amateur boxing. In the welterweight class, he was surprisingly pretty good, winning 22 bouts in a row, with some of those victories being in the Golden Gloves amateur circuit. However, he quit after losing 2 matches in a row, and in the last one, he got his nose broken. This experience hasn't seemed to have had much influence on his music, though Joel has potentially hinted at it through the boxing gloves featured on the album art of The Stranger and promotional photos for said album, along with the line, "Lost a lot of fights but it taught me how to lose okay," from the song Keepin' the Faith. The Stranger 5.1 mix. In the previous part, I talked about the various differences between the quadraphonic and stereo mixes of Turnstiles. While there are other surround sound mixes of other Joel albums that also include mixing and mastering differences, the one I want to talk about here is the 5.1 mix of The Stranger. Produced by Phil Ramone, remixed by Frank Filippetti, and first released in 1998 in Europe and 2001 in the US on Super Audio CD, the 5.1 mix of The Stranger has a lot of major changes from the stereo version, similar to the Turnstiles quad mix. For starters, the sounds made by Doug Stegmeyer's Corvette at the end of Movin' Out don't fade out early and are much more audible. The deeper part of the vocal harmony in the title track is also much louder.
Don't be afraid to try again. Everyone goes south.
I'm not totally sure about all of this, but all the Just the Way You Are's except the last one, along with the All Right before the sax solo in Just the Way You Are, use a different vocal take. In Get It Right the First Time, the congas are also much louder.
That's the main thing. Oh, I can't afford to let it pass.
However, definitely the biggest difference from the original stereo mix is the song She's Always a Woman uses a completely different vocal take. Just take a listen.
She can kill with a smile, she can wound with her eyes. She can kill with a smile, she can wound with her eyes.
Like the Turnstiles quad mix, this version of The Stranger is not the easiest to come by, with its last official release being in 2018 as part of a Japanese 40th anniversary deluxe box set. It's also important to note that the SACD version shouldn't be mistaken for the semi-recent Dolby Atmos mix that was released on Apple Music in 2021, which, according to some, is quite off compared to the original 5.1 mix. Children's books. Joel partnered with the publishing company Scholastic Inc. and released the 2 songs Goodnight My Angel and New York State of Mind as children's picture books in 2004 and 2005 with illustrations by Yvonne Gilbert and Isaac Zinno respectively. CD singles of the songs were also included with their respective books. Funnily enough, this isn't the first time that Joel partnered with Scholastic, which is something I'll talk more about later. Frank Weber embezzlement case. Frank Weber, brother of Joel's first wife Elizabeth Weber, was Joel's manager from 1980 to 1989. According to the first Joel v. Weber case file, during his tenure, Weber had complete control over Joel's business finances through his management company, Frank Management Incorporated, or FMI. Another involved party was New York accounting firm Berman Shaffett Shane, or BSS, hired by Weber around 1981 and provided Joel with quote-unquote quarterly statements of his financial condition. Weber was alleged to have quote-unquote misappropriated assets by giving himself quote-unquote large interest-free loans out of Joel's pocket. He also supposedly used Joel's power of attorney to quote obligate Mr. Joel to large investments and guarantees of partnerships, in which Mr. Weber had a personal interest, unquote. Strangely, some of the said partnerships included apparently successful thoroughbred horse breeding partnerships with Howard Shane of BSS, who is noted as being quote-unquote principally responsible for Joel's account. On that note, and on top of all this, Joel's party accused BSS of negligence for not reporting these happenings. FMI and BSS were fired in August 1989, and the first $90 million lawsuit was filed by Joel the following month. Weber managed to avoid being arrested due to having Joel's power of attorney, and Joel would be awarded $2 million by the court based on partial judgment. FMI would file for bankruptcy and sue a couple of years later on the basis that Christy Brinkley, who was Joel's wife at the time, quote, did wrongfully, knowingly, intentionally, maliciously, and without reasonable justification or excuse, induce, persuade, and entice Joel to violate, repudiate, and break, unquote, the management agreement between Joel and FMI. $11 million in damages was requested, though this case was dismissed. Joel has stated on a few occasions that he retrospectively sees it more as an emotional betrayal rather than a financial one, considering the trust he placed in Weber, seeing him like a brother and even naming him the godfather to his eldest daughter. He also holds no grudge against him, stating in a 2013 interview with Andrew Goldman of the New York Times, quote, I saw him a couple years ago out here in the Hamptons. He was going into a restaurant, and I said, hey, how you doing, man? We sat and talked. I have absolutely no hard feelings. I let all that go. I can't carry that stuff around. You'd be pissed off your whole life. Bad things happen to good people, and bad things happen to bad people, unquote. While it clearly wasn't the most enjoyable situation for him, this debacle at the very least inspired an absolute banger, The Great Wall of China from River of Dreams. Found VH1 Behind the Music episode. Behind the Music is an episodic documentary series created by Jeff Gaspin and Gay Rosenthal, which aired on VH1 between 1997 and 2014 and was later rebooted for Paramount Plus in 2021. The show is based around documenting the careers of and interviewing artists and bands who had an impact on rock history, though not as much as those on Behind the Music's sister show, VH1's Legends. Billy Joel was the subject of the 9th episode, which aired in the show's first year. According to the Lost Media Wiki, each episode of the original run was only aired once, and though there was an episode list previously available on VH1's website, the episodes themselves were not available for viewing. Most of the episodes have been found and uploaded to various file-sharing sites as recordings of the original airings, along with some international versions, and 9 of the episodes have been put on Paramount Plus, though a good chunk of the show's original 244 episodes is still lost. Fortunately, the episode spotlighting Joel has been preserved as shown by the footage I've been using throughout this entry. I'll leave a link to the Lost Media Wiki article for the show in the description, where a download of the episode can be found. We Didn't Start the Fire history lesson. In January of 1990, not long after Stormfront's release, Joel, in his first collaboration with Scholastic Inc., distributed a cassette of We Didn't Start the Fire to 40,000 middle and high schools in the US through the Junior Scholastic and Update magazines, intended as a study aid for history classes. Interestingly, included with the song was an 8-minute lecture by Joel formerly titled A Conversation with Billy Joel, though is often referred to as History is a Living Thing, in which he discusses the importance of history, how the song came to be, and how it reinforces that importance as a result. I actually bought this for the sake of this video, so I'll play a bit of it here.
I think the letters I've gotten from teachers and students alike have been really encouraging. A lot of people tend to think history is just this drab series of boring names and dates that you just have to connect to pass the test. And really, history is a living thing. We are where we are today. We are who we are today because of our history. When we go into the future, bringing our history with us. And if we don't learn the mistakes of history, we're doomed to repeat them. Times they are a-changing. Dylan said this back in the 60s. But I always find history to be a fascinating thing. I'm very interested in why things are the way they are today. Why are we here? Why are we like this? Why is the world the way it is? And it's because of what happened before. And if this has helped to stimulate an interest in history, especially recent history, because things have happened very quickly in my lifetime, in this century, time has accelerated a tremendous amount. There's a great deal to try to absorb because of the communications explosion, too. But it's all very interesting. I find that the truth is much more interesting than fiction. And if the song has helped generate interest in it, then that's a good thing.
The whole thing can be found on my archive channel, Frankie Gorilla Glue Lover, which I'll link in the description. Anyway, according to the LA Times, many students found a higher appreciation for the song after learning about the topics sung in it, and Joel stated in an interview with Rolling Stone that, quote, "Most of my mail I get about that song comes from teachers who have said this is the greatest teaching tool to come down the pike since Sesame Street, which means a lot to me since I once wanted to be a history teacher," unquote. Despite the praise from students and teachers alike, this program definitely wasn't without its critics. While it was intended to help students become more interested in history, some saw it as an attempt to boost sales of Joel's #1 record, and some school administrators thought it was way too gimmicky and didn't do too much to teach history with the song's name dropping. And while it seemed to have some effect, it was seen to have, quote-unquote, very narrow application, according to one administrator. Laura is about Joel's mother. Upon first listen, the song Laura from the Nylon Curtain seems vague enough to be about any woman in the narrator's life. Many have assumed that the song was specifically about Elizabeth Weber, who Joel was in the middle of a divorce with around the time, though he has stated in an interview with Associated Press writer Mary Campbell, quote, "Laura is not about Elizabeth. It's about the guilt you get from someone in your family who knows just how to stick the knife in and wear you down," unquote. Taking this quote and the line, "How can she hold an umbilical cord for so long," into consideration, it could be fair to say that the song is about Joel's mother, Rosalind Joel, who is described as emotionally volatile and an unstable part of Joel's childhood. This is further confirmed by Liberty DeVito, as he stated in a brief email interview with Billy Joel biography author Mark Bago, quote, "Yes, this is about his mother. The word mother has the same amount of syllables as the word Laura," unquote. The stutter on "You're Only Human, Second Wind" was unintentional.
It's alright, sometimes that's all it takes.
Apparently, this fib in "You're Only Human" wasn't meant to be in the song. The story goes that Joel was trying to sing it in one breath, but stuttered and was going to re-record it, but was convinced to leave it in by Paul Simon and Christy Brinkley, who were in the studio listening at the time, since it fit with the song's sentiment that making mistakes was, well, only human. Captain Jack controversies. The song Captain Jack from Piano Man has had a handful of controversies, both soon and long after its release. Upon its initial broadcasts on Philadelphia FM radio in 1972, there were many complaints by listeners and critics who said the song promoted drug use. Joel has retorted this point many a time, and especially when asked about it in interviews, saying that Captain Jack, while not necessarily an anti-drug song, was really about how these space cadet sort of drug users with nothing else going for them are losers. While this first bit of controversy wasn't super consequential and didn't really affect the song's overall popularity, the second instance is a bit more interesting. In the year 2000, during Hillary Clinton's announcement for her candidacy for Senate, the song was mistakenly played instead of New York State of Mind from a Greatest Hits Volume 1 CD. The very next day, then New York City Mayor and Senate candidate Rudy Giuliani recited lines from Captain Jack at a press conference and said, quote, "The message that got out by mistake was, let's say yes to drugs," unquote. The Clinton campaign fired back, with the spokesperson stating, quote, "Apparently the mayor has now turned his relentless negative attacks on Billy Joel. This is what candidates do when they have nothing positive to offer the voters," unquote. Now, what did Billy himself think of all this? It seems that he thought it was really unnecessary, stating, quote, "There are a lot of important issues facing the voters in this Senate race. Is a politician's interpretation of a song I wrote nearly 30 years ago an issue to the voters of New York State? I do not think so," unquote. James is a real person. As the name of the entry suggests, the song James from Turnstiles was written after someone that Joel knew in real life. While it was inspired by multiple people from Joel's previous bands, the song's namesake comes from childhood friend and former Lost Souls bandmate Jim Boss. According to the Billy Joel biography by Fred Schruers, the last time Boss and Joel met before the latter's rise to stardom was during Boss's last undergrad year in college when Joel came to his apartment. So the story goes, Joel sat at Boss's piano and played some songs which would eventually be recorded for Cold Spring Harbor and asked if he would play guitar on the album. Boss declined to focus on his studies, though he recalls it as quote-unquote, one of the major regrets of my life. He went on to get a doctorate in optometry and moved to Colorado, where he and Joel would eventually reunite after one of the latter's concerts in Denver. While Boss would keep a steady and successful career as an optometrist for some time, that's not to say that he completely gave up on music as the song suggests. In fact, quite the opposite happened. He was inspired by this meeting to arrange the song that Joel named after him for classical guitar, and was encouraged by Joel to release an album of more of these arrangements aptly titled The Billy Joel Collection, Arrangements for Classical Guitar, which was eventually put out in 2002. Boss has since committed to music full-time after retiring from optometry, even having his own YouTube channel where many of his performances and original songs can be found. Link will be in the description. They actually cut it down to 305. The infamous line, if you're gonna have a hit you gotta make it fit, so they cut it down to 305 from the song The Entertainer, wasn't just ragging on the overt anti-art and commercialized nature of the music industry through the editing of songs for radio play. Rather, it was also something that actually happened to Joel, not once, but twice. It first happened with the promo version of Piano Man, which was cut down from 5 minutes 40 seconds to a mere 3 minutes and 16 seconds, which was the incident Joel wrote about in The Entertainer with some creative liberty to make it sound good. Funnily enough, the line was prophetic in a way, since it happened again with the single release of The Entertainer itself, being reduced from 3 minutes 42 seconds to 3 minutes 11 seconds, though, ironically, it was printed on the label as 305. Not only this, and a bit tangentially related, a whole verse was cut from the studio version to ironically fit the radio standard. Joel would occasionally insert it back in during concerts of the early to mid-70s, and is as follows.
I am the entertainer, I dress to fit the style, I wear all kinds of sparkles, I flash the crowd my smile, but when the night is over, and I stand without my clothes, perspiration stains and varicose veins, my eyes look shut, my belly's got a pot and there's a pimple on my nose.
Session player. While Joel is primarily known as a solo artist first, and maybe a former member of several short-lived bands second, he was also a session musician, at least mostly earlier on in his career. The most well-known instance of this is with his piano work with the Shangri-Las in the mid-60s, playing the piano intro on the song Remember Walking in the Sand in 1964, and on the demo version of the group's biggest hit, Leader of the Pack. It is unknown whether or not Joel played on the final cut of the latter. While this fact is pretty common to find among Billy Joel Top 10 Fun Facts lists, which this video series might as well be, what these lists fail to mention is that Joel also served as an occasional hired gun, or hired piano man rather, first in 1972 playing on fellow Family Productions talent Peter Anders' self-titled debut. Joel didn't play on a crazy number of records afterward, though when he did, he would be considered more of a guest musician rather than a session player. From 1975 to 2014, he played piano and keyboards on select tracks from these records: the Earl Scruggs Reviews album's Anniversary Special Volume 1 and Volume 2, Bo Diddley's 20th Anniversary of Rock and Roll, Elliot Murphy's Night Lights, Twisted Sister's Come Out and Play, Julian Lennon's The Secret Value of Daydreaming, Mick Jones' self-titled album, Richard Marx's Rush Street, Chris DeMarco's Lost and Found, and Mark Rivera's Common Bond. He also appeared as a guest vocalist on Cyndi Lauper's 1986 album True Colors, specifically on the song Maybe He'll Know. The Dakota Incident. The Dakota is a housing co-op apartment building in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Built in the 1880s, the Dakota is renowned for its incredibly high-class and luxurious living spaces, along with its large cast of notable residents across several decades, including, but not limited to, Judy Garland, Walter Becker, and most infamously, John Lennon, who was shot outside the building in December 1980. As a result of this high regard, many have applied and been rejected from the exclusive establishment, including the guy this video is about, Billy Joel. In June 1980, it was reported that Joel had been turned down by the Dakota's board of directors due to fears of him attracting groupies, along with his public admission of drug use. I don't think you can really call this an incident, but you gotta have a the blank incident entry on an iceberg somewhere. American Chopper episode. Taking his liking for motorcycles into consideration, it's no surprise that Joel made a special appearance on the hit Discovery Channel TV series American Chopper, a reality show in which the crew at Orange County Chopper's bike shop, run by Paul Tootle Sr. and Paul Tootle Jr., builds motorcycles for certain clients. In 2006, Joel was featured in a 2-hour special aptly titled Billy Joel Bike, where the Tootles, build him a bike, specifically a vintage Indian bobber motorcycle. In a 2020 episode of Orange County Chopper's podcast, Tootle Sr. recalls Joel as arrogant, as he was very particular about the bike he wanted built, and as a joke behind the scenes, 2 of the crew members strapped a keyboard to a small bike, which was something that Joel didn't want or appreciate.
Particular is one thing, being an asshole is another. He came in like the ultimate bike builder that knew everything there was to know about bikes when he didn't know shit. And he told Rick he wants this. He itemized what he wanted, and I was there too. And then he came back and he said, I didn't want none of that shit on my bike. One thing he did say, he says, don't be doing none of this piano shit.
No keyboard design on the bike or anything like that?
Don't do that stuff. I don't think it's funny. So
Yeah.
when he came there, Michael did, he had this little bike and he put a piano on it. And, when he walked in, we just pulled the cover over.
Of that,
off
showed
it.
him that.
Yeah.
Did he think it was funny?
No,
or?
he didn't think it was funny.
The full episode isn't included with the rest of the series on streaming for some reason, but is available on Amazon Prime Video separately for $2.99, and Lord knows I'm not paying $3 to watch an American Chopper episode. Mar y Sol Festival. The Mar y Sol Festival, billed as the Mar y Sol Pop Festival, was a pretty important event in the Billy Joel lore. Held between April 1st and April 4th, 1972 in Manatí, Puerto Rico, the Mar y Sol Festival was the first international Puerto Rican pop festival and headlined huge acts such as the Allman Brothers Band, B.B. King, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Dave Brubeck with Jerry Mulligan, among several others. Though the festival was stacked with popular performers and was looking to be the next Woodstock, it ended up being a disaster, especially for the promoters. It was initially going to be held as the Vega Baja Music and Art Fair in November 1971, but kept getting postponed due to supposed financial problems, eventually being renamed and held early the following year. Not only this, they also faced legal troubles with the Puerto Rican government, so much so that head producer Alex Cooley and communications director Bill Dial had federal warrants out for their arrest, which they managed to avoid. As a result of these legal problems, along with scheduling conflicts and other miscellaneous happenings, a few major acts had their performances outright canceled, voluntarily and involuntarily. On top of this, the Puerto Rican people and the government protested against the festival because it just so happened to coincide with Holy Week that year. By the end, the Mar y Sol Festival was ultimately condemned by reviewers for being uncomfortable, the supposed accidental deaths and murder that occurred, and overall just being straight up unsuccessful. Now, where does Billy Joel fit into all of this? Riding off the heels of his mostly unsuccessful album Cold Spring Harbor from the year prior, Joel played his set on April 2nd, the second day of the festival. This was said to have been Joel's first major performance, which provided a much-needed boost to his then-budding career. It was also important since the head of Columbia Records, Clive Davis, was said to have been at the performance and was impressed by his artistry. As a result of this, but more so due to the popularity of Captain Jack on FM radio in Philadelphia that same year, Davis would strike a deal with Family Productions in 1973 and sign Joel to Columbia, which brought us the lineage of hit albums that he is known for today. If you want to listen to Joel's set, the full audio is available on YouTube, which I will link in the description. The Funk Club. The Funk Club was a jazz fusion band formed in 1999 in Orlando, Florida by Liberty DeVito. It of course featured DeVito on drums, along with Tommy Carlton on guitar, Doug Bear on organ, Larry Jacoby on bass, Charlie Deschamps on sax, and Steve Walters on trumpet. They only recorded one album, Taste of Money, which was released in 2000, though they seem to have performed in the Orlando area into the early 2000s. In 2001, they appeared on the local Fox News station to perform their song Dancin' with Mr. Boomer, the footage of which you're seeing right now. As for the music itself, it's pretty good for what it is. A funky, modern-sounding mix of no-bars-held instrumental jazz fusion, jazz rock, and smooth jazz. However, it's also not afraid to push these boundaries a little on songs like Luigi Luigi, which features segments from a phone call, and Come to the Club, the album's only vocal track. Some real highlights, I think, are the aforementioned Luigi Luigi, along with Insomniac, Candy Apple Strut, and the club's cover of the Billy Joel live song Handball, which I mentioned in the last part. Album cover real locations. Many of Joel's album covers feature an image of a real location, mostly as photographs featuring Joel, with the only exception of these being Street Life Serenade, which is a painting. While vague locations have been speculated and confirmed in the past, the exact spots of most of these were found by Bob Egan of Pop Spots. This entry will be more or less just a quick list, since it would probably be a drag to fully explain and listen to everything, so if you want a complete and thorough breakdown of said exact spots, I highly recommend you check out Egan's original articles. We'll go chronologically, starting with Cold Spring Harbor, which features Billy standing by the now demolished Eagle Dock in the actual Cold Spring Harbor, which is a hamlet in Long Island. Street Life Serenade's cover is a still life of the building located at 1002 South Gaffey Street at West 10th Street, San Pedro, California, which was built in 1925. Both the front and back covers of turnstiles were shot in the uptown side of the Astor Place subway station in New York City. While it's not the front cover, the back cover of The Stranger, featuring the band and Phil Ramone, was taken at Guido's restaurant located in the back half of the now demolished Supreme Macaroni Company pasta store between 38th and 39th in NYC. 52nd Street's cover features Joel standing next to a service elevator in front of an old pancake house on 7th Avenue and 52nd Street in New York, a building whose 7th floor housed the famous Studio C and later the Phil Ramone-headed A&R Recording, where Joel was recording that album. Of course, as I mentioned in the last part, the cover photo of Glass Houses was taken in front of his actual home in Long Island at the time. While not exactly a cover, the nylon curtain's inner sleeve features a flyover shot of the Levittown-Hicksville suburbs where Joel grew up, though probably without the yellow superimposed over the windows. Lastly, both of An Innocent Man's covers were photographed on the steps of 142 Mercer Street in the Soho neighborhood of New York. 2000s car crashes. Between 2002 and 2004, Joel got a lot of unwanted media attention for getting into 3 different car accidents in that 2-year time span, in all of which he lost control of his vehicle. In the first publicized incident in June of 2002, his car skidded in the rain and he crashed into a firewell and post in East Hampton, leaving him with only minor injuries. It was also reported that, about a week later, he checked into Silver Hill Hospital, a psychiatric hospital in Connecticut which specializes in substance abuse treatment. The second incident was in January of 2003, where, in the late hours of the night, he swerved off the road and crashed his 2002 Mercedes-Benz into a tree in Sag Harbor, this time being hospitalized, though he was released the following day. His last and probably most infamous accident was in April of 2004, in which he was driving on a wet road in a 1967 Citroen and slammed into a house in Bayville, Long Island. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured since no one was home, though Joel suffered a minor laceration to one of his fingers. A kind of funny thing to note is that the homeowner was a 93-year-old woman who had no clue who Billy Joel was, with her being primarily concerned whether or not he would pay for the damages. In all of these cases, Joel had been accused and poked fun at by both the press and the public for doing a bit of booze cruising, considering his bad history with alcohol, though he has vehemently denied these claims and no substantial evidence has been found. He has since blamed these crashes, or at least the state he was in during them, on the 9/11 terrorist attacks, stating in the previously mentioned 2013 New York Times interview, quote, "I was kind of in a mental fog, and it had nothing to do with the booze. My mind wasn't right. I wasn't focused. I went into a deep, deep depression after 9/11. 9/11 just knocked the wind out of me, and I don't know even now if I've recovered from it. It really, really hurt that man could do that to man." Unquote. The Joel Files. The Joel Files, also known as Die Akte Joel, is a made-for-TV documentary that first aired in Germany in 2001 and was later screened at the 2003 New York Jewish Film Festival, and was directed and written by Beta Thalberg. While in the previous part I did encompass Joel documentaries and TV appearances under one broad umbrella, I wanted to single this one out because of its non-music subject matter. As per the NYJFF's own description of the film, this is the history of the family of rock legend Billy Joel, their escape from Nazi Germany and Austria, and their return to discover the past. In the 1930s, Billy Joel's grandfather was the owner of the second largest mail-order business in Germany. The company was quote-unquote Aryanized in 1938 and became a great success under the new owner, Josef Neckermann. The story of the bitter entanglement of the two families and the third generation's eventual attempt at reconciliation formed the basis of the film. This isn't really a documentary about Joel himself or his music, rather, it uses his image as a vehicle to tell the story about the Joels and the Neckermanns. However, that doesn't mean it's not worth watching, as it's a very interesting film that tackles themes of heritage and family history, along with how that history has affected the following generations who have or haven't learned about what their ancestors have done, while also making the point not to scrutinize this younger generation who had no involvement in what happened. It's also a very specific look into how the Second World War and the Third Reich destroyed Jewish businesses in Germany, along with their German counterparts that hostilely took them over. While the latest Joel doc does touch upon Joel's relation to his Jewish roots and ancestors and the horrors they faced during the Holocaust, the Joel Files is a much more thorough look into it. A VHS rip of it has been up on YouTube for a while now thanks to user PianoLover2006, and I highly recommend you watch it if you're into that kind of stuff. Country western music, or the cowboy song. Before I get into this entry, I would like to put a disclaimer here as it contains the use of a homophobic slur by Billy Joel. While it was no doubt used in a satirical context, and I am in no way accusing Billy of being homophobic, nor do I condone homophobia or bigotry of any kind, this is something I didn't think I could ignore when talking about this song. The primary intent here is to inform, and at the very least, I wanted to leave a warning. If you'd like to skip this one, go to this timestamp. Otherwise, let's continue. Also referred to by the man himself as my first impression of country western music, and by fans as the cowboy song, this entry refers to a song that Joel had rarely performed at concerts in the early 70s, as well as once at a college Q&A in Nuremberg in 1995. The intentionally stupid song is meant to be a parody of what he thought the entire genre of country music was like when he first heard it, as, according to him, there were no country music radio stations in New York when he was growing up.
Well, I went into town the other night to see if I could start a fight. I felt so mean that I was going nuts. Well, I felt so downright mean, you see, that when some dude bumped into me, I went and stuck a pitchfork in his guts. Well, I ain't no hippie commie flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag. I don't believe that college kids should vote. Yes, I'm a peaceful man, you see, but if you don't agree with me, I'll have to kick your teeth right down your throat.
In said 1995 Q&A session, he said his opinion changed on the genre after listening to the Ray Charles album Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music, and praised modern artists such as Travis Tritt and Garth Brooks for bringing a more rock and roll edge to country music. Billy Joel quilts. Have you ever wanted to sleep under or on top of a quilt with Billy Joel printed on it? Now you can. I don't know why, but wherever I scroll, I keep seeing advertisements for these bootleg Billy Joel blankets, quilts, and comforters being sold on sites like Etsy. Sure, there are plenty of these sorts of things made for fans of many different acts, but I've only ever seen ads for Billy Joel ones despite being a bigger Dan head than a Joel head. Even though they're probably cheaply made with terrible quality prints and materials, they still make the perfect gift for your loved ones. Piano Man is actually about a gay bar. The half-joking fan theory that Piano Man is about a piano player at a gay bar who doesn't know it's a gay bar is one that has popped up a few times on the internet in the past 5 or so years. Its virality seems to originate from this Tumblr thread from 2020. You know who's gay? Paul the real estate novelist who never had time for a wife, and Davy who's still in the Navy and probably will be for life. New headcanon. Everyone in that song is gay except the piano man who has no idea he's playing at a gay bar, and the staff and regulars have a betting pool on how long he'll take to finally figure it out. So far, John is ahead. That makes the "man, what are you doing here" line way funnier. Now, John at the bar is a friend of mine who gets me my drinks for free. Dude, he has a crush on you. The manager gives me a smile cause he knows that it's me they've been coming to see. Also implies that the piano man is possibly an incredibly attractive but oblivious himbo, and if you listen to the rest of it imagining that, this all fits a little too well. Hashtag Billy Joel, hashtag piano man, hashtag song lyrics. Anyway, while it started off as a shitpost, some fans have taken this joke and turned it into a somewhat serious interpretation of the song. In August of 2024, Joel actually acknowledged this theory in an interview with The Today Show, saying that specifically with regards to the character of Paul, the idea of him not having time for a wife originated from him being too busy trying to write the great American novel. However, Joel doesn't totally downplay the theory, saying he could see where it was coming from and that he thought it was pretty funny.
There's this new theory out there now that it's actually about a gay bar.
Oh.
I was reading this, so I see how that could be. Paul's talking to Davy, who's in the Navy. He doesn't have time for a wife.
Oh.
So
I never considered that, but I see it now.
There's a whole theory about it, which is very funny, actually.
The EPs are a cover-up. Over the course of about 6 months in 2022, 5 EPs with 5 songs each were released on music streaming platforms in order to continue the celebration of 50 years of Billy Joel, which had started the year prior. However, no sane person would listen to these since they're just some of the hits with a few kinda deep cuts. Taking this into consideration, maybe these EPs were released in order to cover up something. Universal Music money laundering? Billy Joel breaking the 34th Illuminati rule? Probably nothing at all, who knows. 96elephants.org PSA. 96 Elephants is a division of the Wildlife Conservation Society, or WCS, which fights against the poaching of elephants and other endangered species in Africa. According to their website, they helped get the End Wildlife Trafficking Act passed in 2016 and have made nearly 2 million actions to help save elephants at the time of writing. This seems like a good cause, I think, so I'll put a link in the description if you really want to check it out and or donate. Now, what does Billy Joel have to do with elephants? In 2015, Joel showed his support for the organization by providing voiceover for a CGI animated PSA.
I'm Billy Joel. Did you know the United States and China have each crushed more than 6 tons of ivory? These fragments are all that remain of countless elephants. Every day, 96 elephants are killed in Africa for their ivory tusks. We can't turn back time, but we can reverse this trend. Don't be the generation that allowed elephants to go extinct. Take a stand. Go to 96elephants.org.
Far Cry. One of the greatest one-shot bands on Earth, Far Cry was formed in 1980 by songwriting duo Phil Galdston and Peter Tom. I made a whole video delving into their album The More Things Change, along with their non-Far Cry debut American Gypsies, so check that out if you want to know more about them. It's a bit wrong and outdated and surface level, as I made it at the ripe old age of 17, but it's still something that I'm somewhat proud of. Now, to once again ask the question, this time without the elephant part, what does this have to do with Billy Joel? Well, Billy Joel band members Liberty DeVito and Doug Stegmeyer play on this album, specifically on the songs The Hits Just Keep On Comin', and it's not as simple as that. Not only this, the album was recorded at A&R Recording, where Joel was recording Glass Houses at the time, which explains why DeVito and Stegmeyer were able to come on. Also interesting to note is that this was also around when and where Steely Dan was recording their album Gaucho, which explains why Donald Fagen does backing vocals on a few of the tracks. If you're a fan of soft rock and AOR type stuff and you haven't already, definitely give The More Things Change a listen. Now speaking of Steely Dan parallels. Could you really call it a Dingus video if I don't draw comparisons between the main thing I'm talking about and Steely Dan? Anyway, Billy Joel shares many parallels with the jazz rock band Steely Dan. Don't believe me? Think about it for a second. They're both from New York, relocated to LA for a time, came back to New York later on, with both of them recording at A&R around the same time for Glass Houses and Gaucho respectively. Their biggest albums were both released in 1977. They both wrote songs about falling in love with a sex worker released on their sophomore albums, if you don't count Cold Spring Harbor. They both had an admiration for Ray Charles, with them even writing songs with him in mind. And most importantly, they both have a first and a last name. A bit less related, but people also like to draw similarities between Billy's song Zanzibar and the general style of Steely Dan. Not only all of that, Billy Joel and Steely Dan are directly linked. If you will, please consult this flowchart. As you can see here, Joel was a part of the Hassles, whose album Hour of the Wolf was produced by Thomas Kay, known professionally as Thomas Jefferson Kay. From his own 1974 album First Grade, there was the inclusion of a song titled Jones, penned by Fagen and Becker. Who are Fagen and Becker? Of course, it's none other than Walter Fagen and Donald Becker, the infamous leading duo of Steely Dan. There's also the possibility that they've run into each other at least once during the late 70s or early 80s due to their close recording proximity. Now, taking all of this into consideration, this begs the question, or the rumor rather, that come out. Does Billy is Dan? Maybe. Maybe. Jelly Boil. Created by conceptual visual artist Tyrone Davies in August of 2008, Jelly Boil is an 18-minute experimental video which is entirely made up of mashed up contents from the Stormfront Eye of the Storm electronic press kit, the video album volumes 1 and 2, and the Live at the Yankee Stadium film. To quote the artist's statement directly, serving both as a collage of actual footage and a collage of ideas, this video work evaluates various elements of perceived persona. What an artist or celebrity sees in himself may be very different from how he is perceived by others, yet he often manufactures a persona to market his work. Usually, this is a persona that many spectators buy into, even if the persona reads like a joke to others. Just as Billy Joel's music videos playfully attempt to establish a loose sense of biography, this video mashup playfully confronts varied ideas of identity. The video follows a loose structure that more closely resembles the narrative of a rock concert than the narrative of a biography. Still, the piece addresses biography as well as concepts of celebrity and performance while musically distilling Billy Joel's songs to their most visceral elements, such as drum fills, piano solos, guitar riffs, and sustained vocals. Art is a very subjective thing, and while I implore you to give this piece a watch and come up with your own interpretation, I'm going to give my own 2 cents about it. As it pertains to Billy Joel specifically, the video is like a character study considering the many faces of Joel that the public perceive him as. To be perfectly clear, I doubt it's a study of Joel as a person, since that would be really parasocial. Rather, it's highly focused on optics in relation to American music and celebrity culture, using his as the example. While it is non-linear, as Davies states, the piece cohesively and generally showcases the 2 different parts of Joel as a public figure, the way he's presented to the public and the way the public perceives him. Most of the piece is a showcase of the former. He's a streetwise and jazzy cool cat, a talented performer, an average Joe making a living in a smoky piano bar, a working man type sex symbol who's a hit with the ladies, a family man, an American hero, and an international superstar. An often repeated soundbite is Joel's aggressive panting from Sometimes a Fantasy, which I think implies not only sex, but also the physical toll it takes to keep up such a multifaceted image. While most of the video shows Joel's outward image, the section that blends that with how he's seen by the public is about 14 minutes in, noted by the title card that reads Jolly Bee. Sourced from the Yankee Stadium film, the people in these clips recognize Joel as a rock and roll superstar, ranging from superfans to those who are only somewhat familiar with the name. One particular selection seems to make a point about the sort of gentrification of rock and roll given the genre's undeniable roots in black culture. Shown by a clip of a black man commenting on how Billy Joel is the go-to guy for rock and roll, which jump cuts to the black kid shoe shining for a white man at the end of the Keepin' the Faith music video. More a comment on celebrity culture in general, some of the fans look for very specific things from Joel as a result of the image of himself that he has created. for example, the girl who was specifically drawn to his right cheekbone, and more specific to Joel, the people from Ohio who drove all the way to Yankee Stadium to see him play Piano Man once. Not only this, the piece seems to point out how the subservient nature of fanbase is on par with the strength of American patriotism, as after this segment, it cuts from an American flag with cheering and people lined up with hats in hand, to a crowd waiting to see Billy on stage, which ultimately begs the question, why Billy Joel? Why use Billy Joel as a vehicle for this criticism of celebrity in American culture? Keep in mind, this was 2008. He was still more or less seen as the butt of the joke in the public eye, as this wasn't that long after his string of widely publicized car accidents. There's a plethora of reasons, but I think it's ultimately because of Billy Joel's perpetual relevance in the mainstream over the course of decades, be it because of his music, or scandal, or what have you. It's really ironic, as despite him consistently downplaying his fame and renouncing the image the public has of him, Joel is the archetypal celebrity in a way. At least, that's just my interpretation of the piece. It's a weird, artsy-schmartsy video, and again, I highly recommend you watch for yourself and interpret it in your own way. Links in the description. One of the greatest Reddit posts of all time. Billy Joel was pooping. It was so loud that he put the bathroom fan on and turned the sink on full blast to drown out his pooping sounds. It's okay, Billy. I do it sometime too. Subliminal backmasking. Backmasking is a technique used in music production which involves the recording of vocals in reverse which are later played forward. The idea of it being used for subliminal messaging was first popularized with the infamous Paul is Dead urban legend, a part of which claims that phrases such as I buried Paul and turn me on Deadman can be heard when playing certain Beatles songs backwards as an intentional allusion to McCartney's death. The phenomenon was later pushed by many Christian groups during the Satanic Panic of the 80s, and alleged that popular rock and metal artists were purposefully backmasking subliminal messages in their music in order to indoctrinate those feeble and innocent youths into Satanism. Some artists occasionally do this on purpose, typically to ridicule or satirize the whole thing, though more often than not, it's unintended and usually ends up being complete nonsense which the brain somehow interprets into coherent words and sentences. As with any other musical act, Billy Joel is no stranger to being accused of using subliminal backmasking to hypnotize the masses into submitting to Satan, the Illuminati, and the New World Order. For example, when reversing the line, every dog must have his every day, every drunk must have his drink in Don't Ask Me Why, Joel is telling the feeble youths that it's too bad some of us still pray, any pheasant faps a lot in there. In the song Honesty, if you reverse the last chorus, you can hear a faint whisper say, I love sodomy, when the strings kick in. Lastly, in Pressure, you can hear Joel say, aw shit, and reversing the synth solo reveals demonic screaming, the whole sequence suggesting that Billy is upset his victims got out of his evil satanic torture chambers. I'm sure there's plenty more real and true examples of this phenomenon in Joel's music, but rest assured, he's not getting away with this. Not on my watch. Cage's demo reel. Do research. Lost Wave is an incredibly unique form of lost media that has had quite the surge in popularity in the age of the internet. Unlike the conventional idea of lost media being media unavailable for public viewing, Lost Wave is usually defined as a found piece of music that is attributed to an unknown artist, for example, the most mysterious song on the internet, and everyone knows that, both of whose artists were identified in 2024. One such case is relevant to the topic of Billy Joel, as a found demo reel titled Cages was misattributed to him. According to a 2007 WFMU blog post by user P. Hicks, the person who found the reel, it was found at an estate sale. The box it was found in was labeled Billy Joel and was eventually put on eBay with it listed as such. Upon posting an ad for the listing on a Billy Joel forum along with samples, however, they found that many people were torn over whether or not it was actually by Joel, with many saying that it wasn't, mostly due to the vocals which sound virtually nothing like him.
My mind slips back to yesterday, to images of kings.
Eventually, someone claiming to be Joel's biographer, supposedly Fred Schruers, reached out to the seller and said he could confirm or deny whether or not it was actually Joel from the man himself. After sending him a CD with the demos on it, the biographer got back to the seller and said that the demos were confirmed not to be Joel's. The seller no longer advertised the real as Billy Joel demos, and they hypothesized that the demos were made to sell the songs to Joel himself, which explains the sound alike. This is where the story seems to end. However, it really hasn't yet. The true culprit or culprits behind this tape and their intentions are still unknown to this very day. The reel includes a song titled Pennsylvania, which might give a clue to where they came from, and the song Partners contains an exchange between the lead singer Ward and the backing vocalist Eric, with the former prompting the latter to sing.
No way.
Oh, Ward.
Well, come on, partners. Yes. Come on, Eric, you gotta sing.
Ward's first name also may or may not be Eric as well, as he sings in the song My Old Man, which I think is about how his father would tell him to get up on Saturday mornings.
Every sleepy Saturday morning, who comes honking up the drive, calling Eric. Come on, Eric, get your lazy bones outside.
The song More Like Terry is also explicitly about Ward's supposed older brother, Terry Ward, and, as the title suggests, how his mother wants Ward to be more like him.
There he goes, the winning pitcher of the Little League. Terry Ward, a fine example of what you should be. Mother knows what you're going through, but look at your brother, there's no excuse. Terry's such a good boy, why can't you be more like Terry?
Beyond that, though, it's anyone's guess as to who actually made these demos, which is why I put do research in this entry. Since I have been working on this video on and off, but mostly off, for over 3 years, this entry in particular has crossed my mind several times within that time span, and despite looking for anything besides the blog post about this, I've been unable to find any viable leads. My one hope for this video, besides being edutaining, is that it helps bring the odd case of the Cage's demo reel into the spotlight, and hopefully someday we'll find out who Ward is. Billy Joel Go Animate music videos. Before I get into this entry in particular, please do not bother or harass the user who makes these videos. I just thought they would be really funny to talk about as they pertain to Billy Joel. On the off chance that this user is watching this, keep doing what you're doing and don't let my dumb commentary stop you from making entertaining videos. Anyway, Vyond, formerly known and often still referred to as Go Animate, is a template animation program popular within certain spheres of YouTube. Go Animate is infamous for spawning a plethora of subgenres of videos in said spheres of YouTube, perhaps most infamously, grounded videos, in which a fictional character, celebrity, or even another user does something wrong and gets grounded for a hyperbolic amount of time.
How dare you delete the second arrangement? That's it. You are grounded until Walter dies. You are fired.
This user, Go Animate Music Videos, is a channel that creates music videos in Go Animate, though with a Go Animate sort of twist. Nearly every one of their over 4,000 videos follows a seemingly nonsensical concept or plot totally detached from the music, often featuring an eclectic cast of characters, both original and from intellectual properties, screen grabs from various sources such as news sites, AI-generated images, and strangely, pictures of real people, mostly cosplayers and models, I think, idols, and idol groups, sometimes even crudely drawn over in MS Paint. More often than not, there's also text-to-speech dialogue, sound effects, and even other songs which all overpower the music. Their channel description reads, Go Animate, where music videos doesn't need to be grounded, and we think of random things. This channel is based of my life, my diary. I would never use actual names of real people that I know, rather than internet names that I made up. Don't use your real name on the internet if you want to be a low profile. Also, if you're easily offended with the content in the video, don't watch them, don't report the videos, and don't write mean comments that I should delete those videos. It's not your control of those videos, it's our control. Their banner also reads, "Go animate music videos. Mostly the past music. Today's music too." Out of all of their videos, 16 of them specifically feature Billy Joel's music. Honesty, Just the Way You Are, My Life, Tell Her About It, The Longest Time, You May Be Right, A Matter of Trust, We Didn't Start the Fire, The River of Dreams, Uptown Girl, Leave a Tender Moment Alone, Moving Out, She's Always a Woman, An Innocent Man, It's Still Rock and Roll to Me, and of course, Piano Man.
You can't do that, bro. I don't even think he's getting paid, Sean. Mr. Breast is a fraud.
It really speaks for itself. Again, I must reiterate, please don't harass or bother this user. I just thought these videos would be funny to talk about. Alright, I'm done talking about Go Animate, let's move on. Joel's left eye. In recent years, more and more people have pointed out that there's something wrong with Billy Joel's left eye. Many have speculated that Joel actually has a glass eye, with some pointing out when it seems leaky or even bulging, especially during the 2024 Grammys where he wore sunglasses. In reality though, it's more than likely just the result of aging. Joel has even made fun of this fan conspiracy at a concert in 2022, during which he said that he didn't have a glass eye, but he did have a wooden leg. Billy Joel sucks. I'd hate to break it to everyone who has watched over an hour of me talk about Billy Joel, but Billy Joel sucks. Yeah, I did make not one, but 2 unnecessarily long videos about the man. Sure, I paid at least $3 to go to his funny concert and stood up the entire time and watched him and the band belt out hit after hit and clapped after every song. Yeah, he was the first artist whose discography I really got into. But at the end of the day, he sucks. Why, you may ask? The initials of his stage name, Billy Joel, are BJ. What exactly does a BJ involve? Sucking. Billy Joel sucks my dick. I rest my case. Well, after nearly 4 years, the Billy Joel Iceberg has finally come to a close. Again, if you have any criticism, corrections, or anything like that, please let me know in the comments. Thanks again to everyone for over 3,000 subscribers and for sticking around. And another special thanks to the Billy Joel fan and archival community for making this series even remotely possible. I got some good stuff cooking up this year, hopefully, probably, so yeah, stay tuned. History of Power Rangers will be out when it's out. As always, I hope you're doing well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again in the next one.
Baby, no, I wouldn't have left if I'd been